First banner in NATLAN has been announced. We're getting 5-star characters Milani and Kazuha and 4-star characters Bennett, Xingyan, and Kachina. And the weapon banner got Serves Up and Freedom Sworn for the 5-star weapons, Stringless, Favonius Sword, Sacrificial Fragments, Dragon's Bane, and the Favonius Great Sword for the 4-star weapons. If you have limited resources to spend on this banner, hear me out. Unless you specifically want to pull for a character that you've been praying for, this is the recommended pulling order. Kazuha over Milani's Constellation, over Serves Up, over Freedom Sworn, and here's the information. Milani is a Hydro Catalyst DPS who mainly uses skill to do damage. Different from Nublet's high frequency, long-lasting, and great range charge attacks, Milani focuses on single target with debuff like reducing damage after targeting multiple targets, low frequency Hydro application with low frequency explosive damage, and smaller attacking range. If you're looking for a good DPS to help you deal with Sparabus or any other types of combat related challenges, she will be one of your top choices, especially if you're new to this game. However, if you're looking to invest in the dominant character in the NATLAN, unfortunately, she might not be able to reach the point as Nublet did in Fontaine. After Nublet's first appearance, the standard to determine whether a character is meta or not shifted from largely by damage and capability of being carried by reactions, and teammates to both by damage and its mechanism or how easy it is to play the character, or its teams and how well this team can adapt to different battle conditions. Milani, undeniably, can be carried by good supports like Kazuha, Furina, and Xiangling, etc. to form a hypercarry team, but the small attacking range and HP based damage are not going to be preferred in NATLAN. It doesn't mean that she might be inferior to following NATLAN characters, but think about it. Why would the Nation of Fire, an element buffing attack with Pyrosonance, preferably promote a character whose mechanism is already preferred in Fontaine? Kazuha is an element damage support. With its last appearance on the 4.5 second half banner together with Nublet, I believe most players had pulled this character already, so not gonna spend too much time on this character, just a quick summary. Kazuha is one of the necessary character to pull for with his great ability to group enemies, decrease 40% elemental resistance to swirl enemies with Force as Viridescent, increase elemental damage bonus, and he is suitable to fit into almost all elemental teams except the Anemo and Geo teams. For more reasons and detailed explanations about the mechanism, please check out my previous video about Kazuha and Nublet's banner. 4-star characters are pretty straightforward that Xingyan, a 4-star physical DPS, unless you're really into this character, it's not worth it for you to specifically pull her even if you have suitable weapon to use. Bennett is one of the oldest and best support for any character who need attack. It is pretty necessary to have one because of his amazing healing ability and damage buff, but it is not necessary to pull for him because you'll be able to get him free after finishing the event in 5.0. And finally Kachina. Same as Bennett, you will get Kachina for free after finishing the Archon quest, plus the character doesn't have any support ability, so unless you're really into this character, you don't have to spend any resources on her. Service Up had almost the same stat as Tome of Eternal Flow, but it gave slight more HP, about 4% and buffs normal attacks only. Just conclude first, if the resources you need to get the weapon are close to the resources you need for the character, go for Milani's Constellation first. Since there are so many replacements like Tome of Eternal Flow, thousands of Floating Dreams, and the Widsith, etc., her signature weapon is not going to provide that much damage differences than the others, plus it doesn't have extra effect like Tome of Eternal Flow can recharge your burst, so generally it is not recommended although it is a good weapon. Freedom Sworn is the type that you won't feel pity if you lose the 50-50 to it, but it is not necessary to pull for. It indeed is a pretty widely used among supports and reaction-based DPS characters, but the enhancement to one's team overall damage is not as high as expected, and in some cases, the damage increase is not even as much as giving your DPS a better piece of artifact, so the increase should be only viewed as a positive payment for the same cost when you lose the 50-50. Dragon's Bane is a good weapon for reaction-based characters like Xiangling and Hyperbloom Raiden, but it is not a rare weapon anymore. The last time it had a rerun was around 20 days ago, and I believe it's a 4-star weapon with the most reruns, so don't panic about it if you didn't get this weapon. And Favonius Sword and Favonius Great Sword both help your team to recharge, and they're pretty useful in a lot of scenarios because in most cases, determining whether a team is good or not does not solely depend on how much damage your team is doing. A good team should also have smooth rotation to do rounds of damage, so pretty is not a bad choice if you decide to take them, but you do want to remind yourself that are you willing to take the risk of getting a 5-star weapon and lose all your build pities if you don't need the 5-star weapons? And in this case, I'll give the same suggestions for both Sacrificial Fragment and the Stringless.